you're a business owner and someone got access to your email right now, what would that look like? Could they access your bank, your ACH capabilities, your payroll system, your client files? It's estimated that in the US, there's one cyber attack every 39 seconds. Over 60% of cyber attacks target small businesses, and 81% of those involve weak or reused passwords. If you're using the same passwords that you've used for years, or using the same password across hundreds of accounts, or sending passwords via email to your staff or relatives, or maybe you're saving it on your notes app, or maybe even on a sticky, then your business and your personal life are very vulnerable. Today, I'll share with you a simple but extremely important tool that everyone, but especially business owners, should absolutely have. And it's estimated that only about 36% of Americans are using this. And not only is it going to protect you, but it's also going to save you so much time. So here's a true story. I once had a client, an attorney, who had his email hacked. Within minutes, the hacker had reset his email password and had started sending hundreds of emails out to his contacts, attaching a contract and asking them to take a look at it. Some contacts were people the attorney hadn't communicated with in years. So naturally they were surprised and replied, "Hey, so-and-so, how's it going? Is this something you meant to send to me?" And normally that would be the end of it. Probably wouldn't hear back from each other at that point. However, in this case, the hacker took it a step further. They actually replied to these messages saying something like, "Yeah, it's me. How are you? It's just something I was hoping you could maybe help me with." And so there we were, watching the inbox and sent folders and all of these emails going back and forth, and we could do nothing about it because we no longer had access to the email because the hacker had changed the email password. There were a few other things the hacker did as well, including changing the bank password. Thankfully, in this instance, we were able to quickly stop it from escalating, but who knows how many of these people the hacker emailed were then hacked themselves. Could have been much worse, but it still cost a ton of time and money to resolve, aside from the embarrassment and potential harm to others. And in other cases, it could even cost you some clients. Here's a truth many people may not know or want to hear. Most of your passwords have already been leaked numerous times by companies who've been hacked themselves. And there are websites like haveibeenpwned.com where you can check if your email and passwords have been part of a data breach. The scary part is that there's already over 11 billion compromised accounts sitting out there in these public breach databases. And that includes logins from major companies like LinkedIn, Canva, Dropbox, Facebook. So even if you didn't get hacked directly, if you've ever reused a password, or you're still using the same password from years ago, they're likely floating around on the dark web already and have been. And the reality is that most business owners just aren't prepared or equipped to deal with this ongoing threat. Most small businesses don't have IT departments, don't pay for managed IT services. Some don't even have a go-to person to call when there's an issue or to help them stay secure. We're juggling a dozen apps and platforms, and we're just too busy to come up with secure passwords for each one. Plus, how would we remember them all? And how would we save them securely? It would just be annoying and a hindrance to do so. So we reuse passwords or make them easy to type or just save and share them in plain sight. The good news is there's an easy way to fix this problem. The solution is to start using a password manager. A password manager is your digital vault. It stores all your passwords safely. So you only need to remember one strong master password. And you actually don't even need to do that, because you could just use biometrics instead. And besides that, a password manager has so many other useful tools that will save you tons of time and thus money. Now, I know you may be asking, well, what if I lose that one password? Or worse, what if someone gains access to that one password? And while those are valid concerns, most password managers have safeguards in place for this. Many of them use multi-factor authentication, which means if someone does gain access to your password, they still need a second factor, like a code sent to your phone or a thumbprint, or even better, a hardware key to be able to then gain access to the account. If you want more details as to what some of these are, make sure to check out my other videos where I go really in depth into all of the other things that you could be doing besides a password manager to secure your business and your lives online. So let's go into some of the features that these password managers offer. The first one is autofill and autosave. And what this means is that it autofills your information when you visit a site. It also saves or updates any passwords that you create or update on any of these sites. So say you visit a site and either you decide you want to change the password or the site asks you to change the password, which happens sometimes often, then you can go ahead and change your password, and the password manager will notice that and it'll prompt you asking you if you want to either save if you're creating it for the first time or update that password. And you just click yes and you're good to go. There's nothing else for you to do. Also, just to point out that it's not just passwords that you can save. You can also save important information such as your passport number, your license number, health insurance member ID, things that you need to access sometimes quickly. But instead of just having them scattered in different places like we probably do now, you have it all in one place. It also stores your credit cards, which now you're probably also saving in a browser, so that when you go to pay something online, you don't have to go look for your physical card. Your card can actually just be stored securely because you never actually have to bring it out to use it. And it actually saves you time because when you go to pay online, it'll populate everything for you. And you may be thinking, well, Google already does this for me, or my iPhone does. Yes, except a password manager will do it across all devices and all browsers, because one of the features it also has is cross-platform syncing. So whether you're using an app on your phone or a browser on your laptop, on your tablet, your passwords are all synced. And so you're able to log in seamlessly. If you lose your phone, maybe not all your passwords were back up to your iCloud or whatever other service you're using. And so this makes it super simple and seamless. Not only that, but you can actually log in from another device. Say your phone died or you lost your phone and you need access to your bank at that moment or whatever else. You're able to log in from someone else's device and access whatever information you need. Another feature is password generation, which means that it will create super strong, complex passwords for you. And this is exactly what you want to do for every single one of your accounts. You want to have some crazy, super long, complicated password that you could never possibly remember and you would absolutely never want to have to type in. And a different one of those for every single account. And again, it does it for you. So you don't have to sit there and try to make these super complicated passwords up yourself. You simply tell it to generate it for you. And since some sites even have different requirements, sometimes you go to a site and even you've had to create a different combination of your own password because it tells you you can't use this, or you have to have 8 digits, or you have to have 12 digits. And so in this case, you can even tweak the password generator to say, hey, I need this length, or I cannot use these characters, or I have to use these characters. And so you're able to do that. Super simple, such a time saver. The next feature is encrypted storage, which means that it uses encryption to store your passwords securely. And some of the top password managers are taking it even a step further. Not just securing your passwords, but then also securing the URL for the sites that you're accessing, which is the web address. Which means that even if they gain access to your password, they still wouldn't know what that password has access to. The next feature that it has is secure password sharing. And this is one that has actually saved me tons of time. This feature allows safe, encrypted sharing of your passwords with whoever you choose. So you may have accounts that you share with your spouse or other family members or your kids, or maybe your staff. And I'm sure there's been plenty of times when you've gone to log in to one of these sites that you've shared with others and the password doesn't work. At that point, you probably had to start looking around to see who changed the password and to what. And it usually ends up where no one knows anything and you have to end up just resetting the password. And sometimes you may be even locked out of an account for some period of time, or you have to call in to resolve the issue. Now think about how many times that has happened and how much time has been wasted because of it. Well, with the password manager, you would be able to share these passwords, eliminating that entire headache. And you can share individual passwords. So say you want to share the Netflix account with your kids, or you can share an entire group of passwords, say with a spouse or maybe your assistant. And you can even share it on a limited basis where the password is hidden from the person you shared it with. So they're able to log into the site, but they can't see the actual credentials. Maybe you have an elderly relative that you assist, and so you need to have all of their passwords handy. In my case, I have a Hispanic family, most of whom don't speak English and don't do computers. So in my case, I have a shared folder with each of my relatives that provides me with their credentials and all of their important information, but it still lets them sign into any site that they need to access. But because I have it on limited basis for them, they can't change or break anything. This is because in the past, before I had set up a password manager and I needed to help them with something, what usually happened was that I was never able to log in because the password was wrong and they had no clue what the password was, which meant that the original task I was supposed to help them with, which should have taken just 5 minutes or so, ended up taking an hour or more by the time I solved the password issue, assuming they hadn't already locked themselves out of the account, which would then take even longer. In my case, I pay for a family plan, which means that every relative has the password manager installed on their devices. And like I said, I've created a shared folder for each of them. In my case, I limit access so they can't go in and change the password inadvertently, but you can leave it where they can still change their own passwords. And then I also share certain folders with certain siblings so that they can also access any of these sites if they ever needed to help another relative with something as well. Now, from a business perspective, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, freelancer, content creator, or engage in any business activities, this feature is incredibly valuable for that too, since you will almost always need to share certain credentials with certain people. So for instance, I was a firm administrator for a law firm and I would need to share certain passwords with the partners, and then another set with their executive assistants, and then another set with the paralegals and the legal assistants, and then yet another with the receptionist. This is much more secure than just sharing all passwords with everyone. There's no need for everyone to have access to passwords that they don't use or need. And sharing it on a spreadsheet, while it's not secure, obviously, it's also pointless because if you forget to update one password after you changed it, which is usually the case because people are running around, they're busy, then that defeats the purpose of the entire spreadsheet. You have no idea what information on there is actually valid. And you certainly shouldn't be sharing it via email or on stickies left around the desks and the offices. So the last feature I'll mention is an emergency access feature. This feature allows you to designate a trusted person, like a relative or a friend, who can gain access to your password manager in case of an emergency. And you can set specific permissions and time delays, meaning that the person can only gain access after a certain waiting period that you designate. This is especially useful for situations where you may be unable to access the account yourself, ensuring that critical information is still accessible when needed, but without compromising your security. Let me explain. Basically, you designate a person whom you want to have access in case you are not available for whatever reason. They would request access when needed, and you would have the ability to deny it. Otherwise, access will be granted if the wait time expires without action on your part, which likely means the request was justified. Here's an example. Say you designated your child as this emergency contact and you're riding your bike and you fall and you get injured. Your emergency contact finds out and immediately requests access to your password manager in case any information is needed. However, since you just sprained your ankle and you're okay, when you see that request come through, you just deny it because you're good. And so they won't have access because they didn't actually need it in this situation. However, if it had been more serious and say you were maybe unconscious or worse and thus not able to deny the request, then after the specified period of time, say you set it to 30 minutes or an hour, after that time period, the request will be approved and they will have access to your password manager and be able to obtain whatever information is needed at the moment. So these are just some of the features that password managers offer. Some of them offer many more, like health reports, dark web monitoring, but we're not going to get into those in this video. I think we covered the main ones. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that many of these password managers also offer separate business plans, which come with even more advanced tools that are tailored specifically for your business needs. Things like team management, centralized admin controls, detailed reporting, and much more. Also, if you're still unsure, you're still a little bit worried, and you want to make yourself and the password manager even more secure, then there's some additional things you could do. For instance, you can use a hardware security key, which looks like this. They all look a little bit different, but it basically is a little device that plugs into your computer or phone, and it could be the additional thing that is required for someone to be able to gain access to your password manager. So it'll be that other factor that you set up besides your password. So if someone steals your password, they still can't get in because they don't have your actual hardware key. It's like a second lock to your digital front door. Then there's also passkeys, authenticators, and other things that I'll get into in some other videos. So make sure to check those out. So now that I've shared the importance of a password manager, along with all of the additional benefits, let's take a quick look at some of the top rated ones according to some of the top tech publications. But first, I just want to mention that this is not a sponsored video. I'm not vouching for any of these. There is one of these that I do use myself, but I do not like to provide information on something that I don't know. And so since I have not used any of these other ones, I do not want to get into any details in this video about that. I may later do a video where I go in depth into some of these after thoroughly researching each one and testing them out myself. For now, I of course like the one that I use because I've been using it for years. I just don't want to get into the details in this video. But if it's definitely something that you are interested in, just make sure to leave me a comment and let me know. But as with any product or any tool that you are looking to get into and start using, you'll find negative reports or reviews for each of these options. And that's, I think, with any company nowadays. No company is perfect. So it's important to do your due diligence, and in this case, choose a password manager or tool that meets your specific needs and preferences. So the first one is 1Password, and just some quick info on it is that this is favored for its strong encryption and seamless experience across multiple devices. It includes a neat feature called travel mode, which hides sensitive information when crossing borders. That's pretty neat. I haven't seen that anywhere else, but you may not need that. So the next one is LastPass, which is known for its user-friendly interface and robust features like multi-factor authentication. But a lot of them have that, right? And the last one on the list is Dashlane. And Dashlane is praised for its security, ease of use, and even offers a VPN for secure browsing. At the time of this recording, which is early 2025, all of these offer personal and business plans. And they start around $299 for personal, $499 for family, and $799 for business. And most of these also offer free plans, although I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, these plans are already so cheap. I wouldn't be putting all of my information into a free plan. But if you wanted to try out each one to see which one you like more, because there may be little nuances about each one that could either really turn you off or you would totally fall in love with. And so maybe you could just test it out, create a free account on some of these and just see which one you feel like you like better, and then you can go through with it. So I think I provided you with enough information to help you realize that this is a simple and low-cost tool, one that is essential and an urgent necessity for every business owner, and even in your own personal life. But I know you're probably saying, okay, well, this sounds great, but I just don't have the time for this right now. Who knows how long this is going to take? And I get it. We all do the same. We listen to tons of videos, we gain tons of information, and yet not execute it. And sometimes it's because we don't have the time, and other times it's because we just don't know how to go ahead and actually implement it. And so I know setting up this password manager can feel like just one more thing on that to-do list, the never-ending to-do list that you'll get to at some point because you just don't know where to start. But the reality is that this one small change can save you from huge risks, plus tons of wasted time and even legal or financial damage. Because it's not just about protecting your logins, it's about protecting your business, your team, your clients, your reputation, basically your peace of mind. And so if you want help getting started so that this super important task doesn't just sit as another item on your to-do list that never gets done or gets done too late, maybe you want help just learning what it is you need to do. Maybe you want help and guidance along the way, or maybe you just don't have the time at all and you just want it done for you. Well, in that case, then make sure to check out my memberships where that's exactly what we do. I either teach you, I guide you, I work with you, or I can do it for you. There's even a free one which still offers plenty of value in case you want to try it out first, or you just want to stay there, you just don't want to commit. Inside the memberships, I'll share more information. I'll guide you through some of those tasks during some of the weekly workshops. And then I'll also offer discounted rates if you're one of those that just wants certain things done for you. It'll include step-by-step guides, weekly calls, weekly workshops, templates, basically the support that you need to not only implement this password manager idea, but basically anything that you learn that you're struggling to implement. Or if you simply just want to learn about technology or computers or automating tasks, optimizing your systems and processes, anything like that, that's exactly what we're covering in my membership. So make sure to check it out. The links are in the description. So remember, you would never leave your storefront or your home's front door unlocked. So don't do the same with your online business or your online personal life. Try to set up your password manager as soon as possible, or better yet, tomorrow. I won't say today because it's very unlikely. We're all very busy. Again, if you have questions, leave me a comment, or better yet, just click on the description and join the membership to get whatever support it is that you need to make sure that you get this super important thing checked off your list. Glitch wants to make sure that you set up your password manager as soon as possible, right? Take care and see you in the next one.